right to it. Chapter 14. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's about a 5-pager, not too long. And I got should have something to drink here, but I don't. Handy, yeah, I do have some water. Okay, John screamed, twisting in the air. His mouth was open when he hit the ground. Well, that's a good way to have your mouth open. The air can rush out without blowing your lungs up. He felt a prickling sensation and plunged into darkness. The falling stopped. If I'm dead, he thought, it didn't hurt very much, but it sure itches. Then he realized that he wasn't dead at all, but had fallen into a pile of hay. He sputtered, spitting the hay out of his mouth, then clawed for daylight. John had just poked his head out when he heard voices. A small door opened. John burrowed as quickly into the hay, covering his head. I know I heard a scream, a man's voice said. You were just dreaming, a different voice answered. Let's get some sleep. It's only 5:30 in the morning. It's bad for my health to be up this early. A straw was poking into John's nose, but he was afraid to move. He could hear steps close to the hay pile, but it was too late. He knew he was going to sneeze. Achoo! Bless you, a man's voice said. Hey! Suddenly a hand grabbed John's shoulder and yanked him out of the hay pile. John recognized the tall and short man instantly. He had seen them at the school cafeteria yesterday, just before the robbery. The short man held a long pitchfork whose sharp prongs were 2 inches from John's stomach. Where'd you come from, kid? The short man asked. He shoved the pitchfork closer. John didn't say anything. He was too scared. Why is he in pajamas? The tall man asked. This is a weird kid. John looked down at himself. He'd forgotten all about his pajamas. He suddenly wished he was safe on the Spirit Flyer. He looked up through the hole where he had fallen. He saw the Spirit Flyer still parked on the roof. The tall man looked up too. Hey, there's a bicycle on the roof. The tall man said. You got bicycles on the brain, the short man said. Why would there be a bicycle on the roof? Look for yourself, the tall man said. It's a red bicycle, and hey, it's moving. The short man looked up. John saw it too. The Spirit Flyer was slowly rising straight up into the air. It stopped, the short man said. What's holding it up? Before the tall man could speak, the Spirit Flyer suddenly dove down, crashing through the rotten boards of the roof. Like a dive-bombing eagle, the old red bike aimed straight for the thieves. Both men screamed and fell to the ground and swooped over their heads. The short man held a pitchfork when he saw the Spirit Flyer turn for another strafing run. When he saw the Spirit Flyer pass, it's got 2 pages. What happened? Come on. When he saw the Spirit Flyer turn around in the air, as the old red bike dived again, the short man jabbed the pitchfork at the front tire. But the instant the pitchfork touched, sparks jumped and sizzled. The prongs of the pitchfork glowed red, then melted like wax. The short man screamed, dropping the pitchfork. The Spirit Flyer flew high into the rafters, then dropped slowly through the air, landing on the top of the truck. Everything was quiet. The 2 men stood up, never taking their eyes off the old bicycle. Suddenly the silence was broken by the sound of the truck engine starting up. The men looked at each other in surprise and ran to the truck. Turn it off, the short man hollered as the tall man jumped into the driver's seat. How can I? The man shouted. The keys aren't in it. Let me see, the short man said, pushing the tall man aside. As both men struggled to sit in the seat, the driver's door began to close behind them. Stop pushing me, the short man yelled. I'm not doing anything, the tall one answered. The door's pushing me. This crazy truck is haunted. The 2 thieves tried to push the door open, but the magic was stronger. The door slammed shut, locking them inside. At that moment, the Spirit Flyer rose into the air, then stopped. The truck engine roared. The men inside screamed. Suddenly, the truck jumped forward, smashing through the tall wooden doors of the barn. Pieces of wood flew in all directions. Once outside, the truck stopped, the engine humming. The Spirit Flyer dropped quietly to the ground. John ran over to the old red bike and climbed on, but nothing happened. He tried to pedal. Once again, the pedals wouldn't move. John almost said something mean to the old bike. He realized he should just wait. I'm sorry I didn't trust you, John said. As if answering, the Spirit Flyer rose in the air. It flew forward and landed on top of the trailer, right behind the cab. John heard the 2 thieves arguing inside, pounding on the doors and windows. The truck started to move, with John and the Spirit Flyer on top. The truck pulled out of the farmyard. It turned onto an old dirt road and sped up. The dirt road was full of holes, but the truck went fast. The men inside the cab screamed and yelled, but they couldn't stop the truck or steer it. The truck was moving by a power the thieves had never known. John wasn't sure where the truck was going, but when they finally reached the paved highway, the truck turned by itself and headed toward Centerville. The truck moved so fast, John wondered if it wasn't flying too. All he knew was that the Spirit Flyer had caught the bicycle thieves, and that meant he wouldn't have to destroy his old red bike. The truck just went faster and faster. Far down the highway, John saw the familiar water tower of Centerville. Within 5 minutes, the speeding truck entered the town limits. The truck slowed down once it drove into town. Since it was early in the morning, not many people were awake, But that soon changed. When the truck turned onto Main Street, the loud air horn began to blow. Whoa! Whoa! The horn continued to blow, and the truck drove up and down the neighborhood streets as if it were in a parade. But most people aren't happy to hear a loud, noisy parade at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. As the truck moved slowly down the streets, the horn blaring, people stormed out of their houses to see what was making that noise. When they saw John sitting on the Spirit Flyer on top of the truck, they stared in amazement. John didn't know what to do, so he just smiled and waved. Some of the little children waved back. Most of the adults just frowned. "I've got the stolen bicycles," John yelled. When the children heard that, they all ran after the slow-moving truck. Soon a large parade of children and grown-ups were following the truck like a ragged tail. As John... Come on. There's a picture of it. John on top of the Spirit Flyer on top of the truck. As they passed his own house, Aunt Betty ran outside wearing her bathrobe. Catherine, Lois, and Susan came outside too. They joined the parade of people following the truck. The noise of the horn and the people got louder. Soon John heard a siren. Uncle Bill was already on his morning patrol. The sheriff's car came down the street in the opposite direction, the red lights flashing. Uncle Bill got out of the car and stared in disbelief as the truck passed by. He shouted something, but John couldn't hear it over the noise of the horn and the crowd. Sheriff Kramer turned the car around and followed the truck. More and more people came out of their houses and joined the crowd. The truck turned down Maple Street, then a few more blocks, and stopped in front of the sheriff's office. The loud horn shut off, and when the horn stopped, all the people quieted down. Sheriff Kramer got out of his patrol car. He was the only person in the crowd not dressed in pajamas or a bathrobe. "Uncle Bill," John shouted, "the bicycles are in the truck, and the thieves are inside the cab." Sheriff Kramer opened the driver's door of the truck, his gun drawn, but right away he could see that he didn't need it. The thieves were huddled on the floor of the truck, shaking and trembling, a wild look in their eyes. "Take me, please take me," the tall man begged. "I'm guilty. Just get me away from this goofy truck, this spooky truck, and that crazy bicycle." The short man couldn't even speak. He mumbled something as he crawled out, his eyes staring off into space. He held up his hands. "This is a weird town," the tall man said as he looked at the crowd of people dressed in their pajamas and bathrobes. "A really weird town." A really weird town. One of the deputies, dressed in pajamas like everyone else, led the two frightened men into the jail. Sheriff Kramer walked to the back of the truck. He opened the doors slowly. Inside was a mountain of shiny handlebars, black tires, and colors, I guess. COL. This is the last page. And colorful frames. The stolen bicycles. When the townspeople saw the bicycles, a cheer went up. The noise became louder than before. John sat on the Spirit Flyer and smiled. They were cheering for him. Not really. They were cheering for their bicycles. They're selfish. Okay, there you go. That's 2 chapters in one night. All right. Nobody's on. Oh, that's crazy. All right. Well, too bad. Sorry, Zapman Kaboom. You should have waited. Well, somebody can listen to this as a bedtime story. Yahweh bless everybody. Comment if you want the moral of the stories. You can talk about that in the comments. I don't know if I want to say anything. If I do, I'll do another